After all these months of non-stop requests, I give up. Here is the JPEGMAFIA video. JPEGMAFIA is an artist and producer from Alabama. He states that he really got into producing after hearing Diplomatic Immunity.
When I first started being really interested in making music was when I heard Diplomatic Immunity, and I discovered what sampling was, which helped me discover a bunch of music, which helped me discover what production and all that.
With some of the most creative, unique production out there, inspired by legends such as Kanye West, let's dive into JPEGMAFIA's production. A little disclaimer, JPEGMAFIA's sound seems to change all the time, from his sample choices to his beats to his even genres. So this is more of my take on JPEGMAFIA. So bear with me, okay? Because in this video, I make 2 tracks and 5 beat switches. So let's start with sampling. I often hear a lot of video game sounds in the tracks he produces.
You can't feed your kid 'cause you spent that.
I then searched for a video game sounding sample and found this beauty of a sample.
Nice.
And combined with these effects, I formed an intro. Then you know I had to chop that sample. I then added this low, growly, distorted 808 just following the root note, a sound signature in JPEGMAFIA beats. Then lead to maybe the most overproduced drums I've ever done, with sounds featuring tons of delay, reverb, etc. And I wonder why artists don't use my beats. One thing I would definitely do is sidechain your kick to the sample. It just helps the kick hit harder, which is perfect for these kind of beats. Peggy's drums are often unique sounding and often featured. And for that, I used either Ableton Overdrive or the Redux effect. And these drums play on an even more chopped up part of the sample. And that forms the first verse. And obviously it's not a JPEGMAFIA song unless there are multiple sections, multiple beat switches, multiple samples, multiple fucking everything. And the sample and 808 lead to the first beat switch. I then found this new video game sounding sample. I then chopped and looped this busy section, and the transitions between these sections took some gluing together. I wanted this sound as an interlude before the beat dropped yet again, and then to get to the next drop where Peggy would be rapping again, I had to find a way to transition, and I'm sorry for this one.
To success, first of all, you gotta stay relaxed. You jerk off.
I automated the BPM to slow down for this new sampled section and used this other chop of the previous sample. I combined it with this raw sounding bass.
And the big surprise is the fucking bass is fucking raw!
This is followed by this experimental drum break from the Auburn drum kit, please buy it, and these 2 percussion loops. I then drop the melody out just featuring the drum pattern, keep the track moving and different. And for the last beat switch on this track, wow, this is confusing. I chopped this section of the previous sample. Peggy often uses warm sounding synths just to add to the samples, make them his own, and this synth pattern really helped the sample stay grounded. The drums from earlier are combined with this new growly 808 pattern. I also added this higher synth to stop the beat from being boring. And yeah, that was track 1.
Man, I really wish I was Illuminati. Niggas waiting on the peg like I'm dropping 90. Too black, too strong, I'm a little thotty. Yeah, big speech. Cause when I'm rolling, dressing up,
Beat 2 started with me dipping back into the video game samples, where I found this Law and Order ass sounding sample. I looped this section and got straight to the drums. On the drums, I tried to keep that weird sound. Peggy's kick patterns always seem kind of busy and strange, so I tried to keep that theme going here. The open hat I stretched like this so it sounds weird, and I did this to the hi-hat also to make it sound weird. And lastly, the textures and the loops make this pattern. I use this distorted 808 as low end, as Peggy usually does. And this tonal snare sound and simple synth line keep the verse moving and interesting. And this is joined by a higher synth for the hook section. The sample and this synth then transition into this other section from this vintage sample. And how cool is this transition? And I combine this sample with the drum break from my Auburn drum kit. I then obviously needed another weird movie reference to get to a rock section of the track, something we know JPEGMAFIA loves to rap over. And I'm sorry again for this.
Why would you get down there?
And you landed on McLovin.
Yeah, between that and Muhammad.
Why the fuck would it be between that and Muhammad?
I looped this distorted guitar section of the previous sample and added this drum break from Splice over the top, layered with my own kick for low end. And this rock sounding bass guitar comes in. And I dropped the sample out for part of this section to keep it more interesting. And by the way, I used this part of the same sample as a texture. I then transitioned to the outro, using another chop of the earlier sample and using these effects to get to that section.
Now some niggas kinda respect it or get it retired. I think that a woman can get inspired. He's just here with a shorty in mind. I tell him it's flavor.
Wow, that was a lot. So what can we learn from JPEGMAFIA's production and using our own beats? Sampling is huge, and he isn't defined by genre or style. Each beat has to have interesting production, whether that's through the drums, the samples, the beat switches, the percussion, etc. His drums are experimental sounding and often distorted sounding. Adding your own melodies and synth layers is important to keep the sample your own.
Anytime you meet her, she comes